Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Alliance Designs and Matthew Christensen, the Kraken, or Kraken. I'm not sure if there's a "the" in front of it. I'm going to be honest with you. As soon as I opened this up, I was like, it's cool, carbon fiber titanium, right? We've got the sort of halfway nested frame lock. It's got some zircotai on it, very beautiful, right? OEM for these is Riot. Really picked up on that immediately. Feels really nice. The thing that I was like, I'm not gonna like this because it's got one of those disc things on it, and it's so hard to get those right. They got to be placed in exactly the right. I don't know why they're so much different versus thumb studs. Thumb studs can be placed a little bit weird here or there. You can have different sizes of hands, right? And it's just still a little bit more organic. The disc thing, I'm like, it's rarely got the right detent for it. It's rarely in the right place. Carried this for a couple of days, and I absolutely love this thing. I was so surprised. I was like, man, they really have nailed that. Like the placement of that, the whole knife. Actually, it was really just a joy to EDC. So these are still available. This is a little bit spiced up. There's a little spicy boy here with the zircotai. These are a little more expensive, but the base models cost quite a bit less, actually. So I'll link as many different variants as I can find down in the description. It does help my channel when you use my links, but that is entirely up to you. Thanks so much to Mr. Matthew Christensen himself for loaning this to me for review. I do not get to keep this. This is going back to him or wherever he wants me to send it next after I'm done with it. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. All right, let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. This feels like a larger knife than it actually is. The knife only comes in at 7.5 inches, but I swear my brain told me the whole time I'm carrying an 8-inch knife. And the reason that's where my brain kind of tells me that's the line for full, like a large knife, right? I say full size or large, right? As soon as it's under 8 inches, it doesn't feel like a large, right? Some people are going to say, large knife is a Cold Steel Espada XL. I mean like a normal large, right? Not like a crazy person large. I mean a normal large, about 8 inches, right? So it feels bigger than it actually is. The blade length is coming in at 3.35 inches with a 3¼ inch cutting edge. So decent ratios there. Let's do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. You can see here, this guy's about right in between, but it has more of the Rat 1 presence, right? I think it's it's got a pretty aggressive blade, and that's what makes it look bigger than it is, right? Let's go ahead and put it up against the Demco AD 20.5, actually very similar in overall length to the AD 20.5. Let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. About right. I'm going to say that's about right in between. And then finally, we'll put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, which is actually 8 inches overall, maybe a hair longer, 8.1 inches, and the Benchmade Bug Out. It's actually closer in size to the Bug Out, but just has a lot more girthiness to it. How's the action? So I asked Matthew, I said, is this on washers? This has a very different feeling, and it might be just because it's so well broken in. This has that glassy, like a knife that's running on washers, but is just beautifully tuned to be super smooth, right? Not a hydraulic like the Sebenza or the Umnumzan, not a tight hydraulic, right? This is smooth. And I could not, I was like, this is like really, really nice washer action. He said, no, it's on bearings, ceramic bearings. Doesn't feel like regular bearings. It feels like absolutely perfectly lubricated bearings. Everything is very controlled. This was a joy to engage and disengage, and it's the combination of a lot of things here. Access to the lock bar, right? That just slow, controlled fall down to the fingertip finger, the finger trip down to the fingernail, and then the little tap into the closed position is nice. The reverse flick, beautifully easy to do, even when you miss it, right? Beautifully easy. I use the meat of my finger there. That disc and the detent is the placement of the disc, the size of the disc, the texturing on the outside of the disc, and the detent strength are just perfect. It really I love being pleasantly surprised, and I found myself getting this out and going, that feels good. Maybe this is just exactly right for my hands. Maybe your experience is different, but I love the action and deployment on this knife, right? And it's rare that something catches me like that because I experience so much of the same thing. Yeah, good action, great, right? Everybody can do it. This feels a little bit different. I like it. It's crispy, right? It's crispy, but it's smooth and buttery at the same time, right? I don't know, the perfect chicken wing. The action's good, is what I was saying there. Let's go ahead and do length and height up against the carry profile. So thickness first up against the Spyderco Para 3. You can see here that this guy is thicker, but it is contoured, which is something that I always appreciate. It feels better in the hand than a flat, blocky scale, even when it is thicker. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. This guy is about the same overall length. It's maybe a hair longer than the Para 3 when it is closed. Height, though, it's easily cleared by the hump on the Para 3. Nowhere near the same size as the PM2. Should be pretty, you know, it's not going to feel like a big thing in the pocket. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness. Blade stock thickness here on the Kraken is coming, I'm going to guess that's 140. Holy moly, 157 thousandths. I just really wouldn't have guessed that. It doesn't look that thick. Are my calipers all getting all wackadoodle on me here? Hold on. Zero out. There we go. Yeah, 157 thousandths. Okay, just thicker than I would have expected it to be. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. T8, and that's the name of the game for the screws holding in the scale or the overlay, however you want to say that, right? Same with the lock bar inserts. The hidden screw for the pocket clip is likely smaller, and I would imagine there is at least one hidden screw underneath the scale that might also be smaller. Taking a look inside here, sorry. Well, now hold on a minute. That might actually be the same size. I think it is a little smaller. Yeah, that's usually the case. Hidden clip screws and the hidden hardware holding in the backspacer is usually a little bit smaller. So it's not minimal hardware. There's a few extra screws than I would normally consider to be minimal hardware. And it looks like at least one of those is a T6. But you know what? That's not really that big of a deal. This is largely simple construction. Most people are familiar with taking knives like this apart. As long as you have the right tools, you should be okay. Let's go ahead and weigh it. We are looking at carbon fiber. Simple but beautiful. High quality carbon fiber. The kind of carbon fiber that Riat likes to use. There's a lot of... I don't know that this is like officially confirmed on their website, but it's Riat. I don't know. Riat is weird with some companies. I don't know what it is. Riat, if you're watching this, what's your deal, huh? We know when it's you. It's not the fault of Alliance or Matt Christensen or these other companies, right? For some reason, Riat will tell certain people, just don't say it's us. Right? I don't know what the deal is with it. This is Riat, right? You can also tell by the Zerkatai, because I own some Riat-made knives that have Zerkatai that it's clearly cut from the same block or types of blocks, right? This is Riat, 100%. But it's good. Very, very good. Carbon fiber looks great. Everything looks really nice. Carbon fiber, titanium, Zerkatai, or, for those of you not familiar with that lingo, that word, zirconium infused titanium Damascus. We have 2 different compositions of titanium and then zirconium mixed in. And so once we have these 2 compositions of titanium anodized, which they anodize at different rates because the compositions are different, you get vibrant colors and you get a nice gunmetal contrast, which is the zirconium, and it just looks beautiful. Nice wide pivot collars, really nice. The thin pivot collars is fine, but when we see the wide, I've seen a lot of wide pivot collars on Matt's work, and I just love it because you can actually see it. It's really cool. Titanium, and then we have, of course, M390 for the blade. The weight on this knife, hold on. 4.5 ounces. Oh, a little less, 4.16, right? Not perfect ratios, but also not heavy. It's actually lighter than the Ritter Hogue. Balance, I'm going to guess that's right on the, yeah, right there behind the pivot, right where you're going to have your index finger. Probably part of the reason why it feels so wieldy and comfortable and organic and all of that. Good stuff. Okay, meat and potatoes time. I'm not, sometimes I like Tanto, sometimes I don't. I wasn't sure initially about this blade shape, but I think really what won me over here was how just unbelievably, uniquely glassy smooth this thing was, and how easy it was to manipulate despite it being a thumb disc, right? I found that I enjoyed deploying this knife and closing it more than a lot of the thumb stud knives that I've come to love. I found that, there's a little bit more surface area with this, and even once out in the garage, I deployed this with gloves on. They weren't heavy-duty work gloves. They were thin gloves, and I thought, I don't know that I'd be able to do that as easily with some of the thumb stud knives. I think that disc allows for you to dig your a lightly gloved finger under there a little bit better, right? The space that's allowed here is just enough, right? It's mainly back here. There's just enough. And it really does. You get full leverage off of that. Every last little bit of power that I put into these flips is going right into the blade, and it feels good. I hope that this is translating correctly. The blade, it's all right. I've come to just love this knife. I'm trying to separate my love for the action, right, and my feelings for the blade all the way around. Because what I want to say is I love the blade, right? But I think I love the action, how it feels, so that that love is just transferring naturally into the blade. The blade's all right. It's a compound Tanto. It's kind of a long boy, right? We got hollow on the primary, and then we got a flat grind out here, which is nice, right? Gives you that slicing, a little bit better slicing performance than you would otherwise get with a flat grind, and then a little bit more durability out here at the tip. We have a flat running closer to the center of the blade and out to about 75% or so. So fairly strong blade shape considering, or blade geometry considering we have this flat grind out of the tip, near the middle flat. It's a pretty prominent flat, right? And 157 thousandths on the spine. It does get thin enough to be, a decent slicer. It's not incredible. It's not, oh my gosh, I'm just like laser beaming through these boxes, right, with my Opinel. But the Opinel is just so gosh darn boring. I'd rather pay substantially more money for something that's thicker behind the edge just to feel good about the thing in my pocket. I know Opinel fans just lighten up right now. Do you not know the legacy of the Opinel? It's an incredibly economic tool, and it's really good. It's really good. You should try it. Pass. I hate it. Sorry. I'm never going to stop doing that. I've been doing that for 5 years. I'm going to keep dumping on the Opinel. That is fine. If you like it, then carry. Who cares what I think, right? You carry whatever you want. But yeah, this does a decent job, right? Puncturing, slicing, cutting, and it did just fine, right? I didn't feel like it was getting hung up or felt cumbersome. I will say that the disc does, because of this optimal placement, right, for deployment, it does fall pretty heavily into the cutting path. If you're going to cut straight down, that might be the problem. I never had to do that, and I always kind of paid attention and tried to come at an angle. But it is absolutely in the cutting path initially, right, ahead of the sharpening choil. So just be aware of that. That's a downside to, having this. It's usually going to be in the cutting path just because it's so long. You can remove it. I would imagine that there are a wide variety of like custom thumb discs that you could put on this and make it look a little bit different. The one that it comes with is just fine though, so there you go. This has the horizontal lines here on the flat. I don't know if that's done by hand. A lot of time we call that hand rubbed satin without knowing whether or not it's actually done by hand. But I think that actually is. I think that's what they're calling it. I could be mistaken. And then we have a belt satin finish on the swedge and both the primary and secondary grinds there. And it looks just fine. I would always prefer a medium to high polished tumbled finish. I think it wears better and it just looks better in general, but some people prefer this. It's M390, either way it's going to be just fine, right? Has the Alliance Designs logo, and then it says M390 on the other side, and that's about it. I love that the pivot color is so big. I absolutely love that. On both sides, you really get to enjoy that Zirca-tie, and of course, the pattern will be different on every single one of these if you opt for the Zirca-tie versions, the pocket clip and everything. I think what really would have made me feel better about the value on this one is if they went ahead and offered a Zirca-tie backspacer, because this guy is expensive. This is just shy of 500 bucks. Zirca-tie is not a cheap material. Re-op manufacturing is certainly high quality. M390 titanium, carbon fiber, and then all of the tolerances and blah, blah, blah that go into this. I really wish they would have included a backspacer for that price. It would have felt a little better. We'll get more on that here in a second. Ergonomically, this is beautiful. It's very comfortable. Edges are nicely chamfered down. There's really nothing sharp except for the tip of that pocket clip right there. Little tiny bit, right? Can't say that it really tore at me while I was cutting with it, but I do notice it when I put my finger on it and it bothers me just a little bit. I think that could have been knocked down. The other thing that bothers me just a little bit, I can't say that I actually cut myself, but I did notice that the edge is pretty close to, like, it doesn't take too much to find the edge right there, about to here. That's enough, right? That's enough that if you reached in your pocket the wrong way, you could, in a weird circumstance, you could cut yourself, right? And that's, you know, it's kind of one of those things with the design. The only way to remedy that and keep the blade exactly the way that it is would be to extend the backspacer all the way up to here, right? I'm sure there's some other things you could have done, but I think the idea was to get this blade to sink completely inside the handle, right? And still have enough height that it doesn't look weird compared to the handle, like the blade height to handle height ratio doesn't look weird, right? So, yeah, I never cut myself. I only carried it for a couple of days, but I never cut myself. You might. If your fingers are super duper fat, probably not. If you got skinnier fingers, you're going to be more likely to do it. Backspacer has a little bit of jimping on here. It's just a little bit in case you want to, I guess, hold it upside down, right? And you want to make sure that you've got some traction. I missed it there. Yeah, okay. But outside of that, it's just a simple backspacer. It is titanium, though. I appreciate that. Carbon fiber just looks absolutely beautiful. It's not any special type of carbon fiber, but it looks nice. No voids or anything. It's just really pretty. I like it. Good quality stuff. Good machining there. Milled Zirca-tie pocket clip that is nested, I believe, into the carbon fiber. Very simple. Little swoop, little rise, just the way I like it. Very, it's not super stiff, right? But in and out of the pocket, it was fine for me. It's about medium carry depth, which is also fine. I like that this is a sub frame lock, right? Where we have most of the frame lock underneath the overlay scale. That made it really easy to kind of rest my fingers where I wanted to and deploy it, not worry about putting excess pressure on that lock bar. There's no lanyard thing. Who cares? There's a steel lock bar insert that doubles as the overtravel stop alongside the carbon fiber overlay there. We have some pretty deep shouldering there on the stop pin. No blade play up, down, left, or right. No lock stick. No pivot lash. Extremely consistent action in here. And a perfect detent for the effect that you're going to be using the thumb disc. So yeah, you can touch the blade a little bit. That's for some reason some people just freak out about that and they're like, it's a deal breaker. I mean, it's a possibility to cut your finger on it, and I'm going to acknowledge that, but I can't sit here and say that it should be a deal breaker for anybody. It's annoying and potentially like, oh, owie, you know, like, yeah, sure. I mean, nobody likes to slice their finger. It's not like, you should just be tough and enjoy it. No. It's kind of, it's bothersome, right? Saying it's a deal breaker sounds really overdramatic, right? It sounds like Days of Our Lives, right? That's a deal breaker. My finger. No, it's slightly bothersome is the way that I would label it, right? I have definitely experienced worse in that department where the space is so wide, right? And the edge is so close you can't help but touch it. I think it's a way bigger problem on the Rotten Evo 3.0, for example. This, not so much. I do wish on this guy that they would have included the Zerkatai backspacer. That would have really helped, right? Base price on these is $375, which is, feels a little high, right? I know it's Riyadh, you know, but there are other companies that are using Riyadh that are essentially the same build quality that are $325 or less. Some of them even coming in under $300. But that being said, this does offer a unique experience, you know, in terms of just like the quality of action deployment and just the general comfort of the knife. Everything feels really good, right? So for some people, it might be worth spending a little bit extra. The $375 feels high, but it is a good knife. It was a surprising knife. I really thought, I looked at this and I was like, yeah, this is just, I don't know if I'm going to like this. And I loved it. I loved carrying this. I had a really good experience carrying this guy. I do not just base price on, I'm sorry, somebody's vacuuming upstairs. I do not just go, carbon fiber and M390 titanium, I could get that for, well, yeah, that's just basing value on materials, which is, that's silly, right? That's like a 7-year-old's perspective. There are a bunch of other elements to consider. Absolutely. For example, Riyadh, you know, making a knife out of these materials versus, you know, somebody else. Riyadh generally is a bit higher, right? A bit higher quality. They've got things dialed in a little bit better. Things feel a little bit better, right? And it's noticeable, right? Take it from somebody who handles a ridiculous number of, I mean, I have 3,200 uploads. I handle more knives than the average person. And I'm not trying to be like, I'm better than everyone. I know more than, I'm not trying to say that. But I factually handle more knives than most people, right? Anybody who does what I do would say the same thing. You can tell when it's a Riyadh. You absolutely can, right? Inlay work is great. Transition of surfaces like titanium to carbon fiber is great, right? Contouring is great. We don't have just like sloppy, flat, just slapping it together. And here you go. It's a carbon fiber and titanium and M390 rectangle, right? Yeah, there's a little bit more here is what I'm saying, right? So there's a reason to pay a little bit more for that. Everything just feels nicely tuned. $375 still feels high though, a little bit. I think I would have been happier to see this at $325 to $350. It's got a little more oomph than other things. But the best thing I can say about it is just my overall carry experience. It's just a good design. It works. And it looks like a lot of other things on the market, right? And that's initially what I thought too. I thought it doesn't look that much different than a bunch of stuff that I've seen. Why would, you know, I like this more? And I was surprised by it. I like it. It's good. I think the people who decide to go ahead and spend the money on it, you're going to have to grit your teeth a bit, but once you get it and start carrying it, you are going to like it. I am very confident that that is the case, but you will have to grit your teeth through that price, right? So, not something that I can say everybody should be beating down doors to get. You got to get this right now. It's the most amazing deal on the market. No. And I would feel a lot better about, again, the Zerkatai version if they had included the backspacer, right? Get the version you want. Not the best price in the world, but my goodness, is it a good design. A comfortable, ergonomic, utilitarian, and organic design. So, there you go. Thanks so much, again, to Matthew Christensen for letting me take a look at this. Please make sure, this will be linked down below, like I said. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex if you enjoyed this video. Leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day. God, that vacuum cleaner.